Welcome in Tuesday edition Oxford Exxon podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio here with you this morning. Basketball team is in Athens, Georgia. 6 o'clock Central start for the Rebels and Bulldogs tonight as Ole Miss tries to keep their at-large hopes somewhat alive. That will require a win against former Rebel Mike White and his Georgia team. And then baseball at home tonight against the Memphis Tigers. Riley Maddox getting the start for the Rebels. Mike has shifted the weekend rotation for this weekend against Morehead State, and more. And then we're also going to start the show with a little visit with Corey Clark. They're from Clark Ford. We'll get to him in a second. Also on a podcast brought to you every day by the Blue Skies throughout Mississippi, up and down I-55, throughout North Mississippi as well. Lunch specials, got Sweet Daddies, got pork, got ribs, got barbecue there, and their new superstore going up in Macomb. Also, it is open. I think it's got a Subway attached to it. A lot of different options with Blue Sky and the Oxford Exxon. Again, Neal's in the Clark Ford studio. I guess Neal, I'll let you talk about it. I'll let Corey talk about it. However you guys want to do it.
Yeah, we'll get to Corey in a second because he's going to join us on the Campbell Clinic hotline, so we'll switch this up the way we normally do it. We'll just flip it. Corey Clark, all guests join on the Campbell Clinic hotline. The Campbell Clinic is in Oxford now, 2608 South Lamar Boulevard, Suite 102, just across the street from the cottages at Hooper Hollow. The Campbell Clinic provides full-service orthopedic care, everything from sports medicine to foot and ankle surgery to spine and total joint care, pediatric orthopedics, physical therapy, and more. To book an appointment, go to campbellclinicoxford.com or call 901-759-3111. Walk-ins always welcome at the Campbell Clinic, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. I am in the Clark Ford studios, and we're joined now on the Campbell Clinic by Corey Clark of Clark Ford. Corey, what's up?
Corey, you there? We were completely fine 2 seconds ago.
I guess he'll call back in.
You got me. You had me muted.
Oh, there we go. My bad. Go ahead. How you doing, Corey?
Great. How are y'all?
We're lovely. Just hanging out. You're driving around lovely scenic Amory. I see there. Headed to work or your coffee stop. What are we doing?
Coffee pot. Got to get the scuttlebutt. Got to figure out what happened Monday night. I got to apologize to y'all. I've been giving y'all a little bit of a hard time on the message board. First about Chase's family pillaging Monroe County and claiming land as their own, and then I got on Neal yesterday for was it look for Arkansas here? I think I said,
even though there was no mention of my beloved Razorbacks in that particular press release. I mean, it was just kind of, I was like, A2 Brutus. I mean, you know,
we do what we can,
Well, Neal, what he does is he pulls up those releases, whether it be the SEC release for Players of the Week in baseball or basketball, and then he just hits Apple F and he puts Arkansas in the thing. And if it shows up, he posts it. And if it doesn't show up, then he doesn't post it. That's just a little pro tip for everybody there.
I get it.
Said, just trying to grow my fandom in Northwest Arkansas slowly but surely, so that maybe I can move there and take over all of the big sites and start over as a beat writer on a new beat in my late 50s. That's my goal, because that would be smart.
Well, get after it.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, in this economy, you just never know what you might have to do. But that is not the plan.
Tell me about it.
All right, so you were telling me, we're going to ask about Clark Ford in a second. You were telling me about documentary you were watching on Netflix, and both Chase and I are both Kennedy assassination people. Tyler Siskey's obsessed with it to the point where he will buy any ridiculous theory that's out there. He'll give it credence. Tell me about this one.
Well, this is part of. I'm only on episode 3 out of 4 of the Octopus Murders, I think is what it's called, on Netflix. And in episode 3, there's a reporter that claims to have seen the real Zapruder film. That what the public saw was doctored, and she said she's seen the real Zapruder film, and it wasn't. This isn't a JFK doc, as far as I can tell, but this was just part of it. And that the driver of the car, she's seen the driver of his car turn around and seen the bullet slowed down to the point where she saw it impact JFK's head. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Never heard that. Again, the doc is not a JFK doc. That's not what it's about. This was more the intelligence community. This was more her saying that all this is related, kind of.
It just
If that were true and it has stayed completely silent for that long, I just got questions. Not arguing it. Just got questions.
Well, I didn't see it. She said she saw it. I have no idea.
Now look, my faith in institutions have been shook in the last 3.5 years. That is for sure. I mean, I don't trust anybody anymore, but it's difficult for me to believe that something like that could happen. I mean, there were eyewitnesses there in that area, Dealey Plaza, when that happened. There were, like several dozen people that saw the assassination, that saw Kennedy get shot. I just can't. I find it difficult to believe that no one would have seen that, and that wouldn't have been at least rumored that day in the media.
Right.
So I don't know.
I feel like we have had someone who believes every possible theory imaginable at this point. Like, it's almost like you sit there and go, okay, who have we not accused of shooting him, or what would that? Let's do that a little bit. Let's find a reason why that might be true.
Right. I don't know.
I think the CIA did it. I do now believe that Oswald was involved somehow. His behavior after the assassination is that of someone who was supposed to meet somebody at a rendezvous point. It wasn't just wild. He wasn't just like panicked, scrambling.
Right.
He was his behavior. If like when you listen to podcasts that do a pretty or watch documentaries with people that are pretty informed on how spycraft works and that kind of thing. His behavior was that of a person who was looking for his rendezvous
Mark.
person. Yeah, his mark. Yeah, he was like, he gets to the theater at the Texas Theater or whatever, and he goes. The theater's mostly empty, and he goes and sits right by someone, and then moves to someone else, and then moves to someone else. He was obviously trying to find his. I say obviously, it looks like someone who was trying to find his mark because he was supposed to get away.
Yeah.
There was before we take this completely off the rails, I was listening to a podcast the other night. It was just me. I had the house to myself, and so of course I was doing what normal sane people do. I just turn on a podcast and start listening to it. And it was an interview with Larry King. And Larry King had a connection to Jim Garrison in New Orleans through some other people. And Larry King was one of the people that was supposed to kind of help the Garrison investigation keep going. And they had dinner one night. And according to Larry King, he heard a audio interview with a pilot that was supposed to fly into Dallas that day on November the 22nd and pick up a passenger. He didn't know the passenger's name, but the passenger's description very much met the description of Lee Harvey Oswald. He flew to Dallas. His passenger never arrived, and he left. But he was supposed to pick up the passenger and fly him to Mexico. That day. I mean, that's Larry King. So, I mean, is Larry King full of it? Certainly possible. Larry King had a very successful career in television. But is it possible that he just dreamt that or made it up? Sure. Is it possible Jim Garrison fed him a complete line of BS and King bought it? Sure. King said that he heard the interview, and that it left him very open-minded to what may or may not have happened that day.
Gotcha.
So what's up at Clark Ford?
Shifting right there. We had a really good January. We had a really good February, and it's kind of created a problem in that our inventory is a little light. So I wanted to kind of talk about some stuff we've got coming in, and that's not spoken for, that's pretty desirable. I do have a new 2-door hardtop Bronco that's pretty desirable on the lot. It's like hot pepper colored, kind of spicy. I've got a white over gold F-250 diesel coming, King Ranch. that's not spoken for. I've got a gray dually 350 diesel that's not spoken for. Let me look at my list. Got a couple expeditions coming that aren't spoken for. Chase ordered a Ranger that's coming in that he's not by. Just needed a good email address for that one. Then we've got some Lariat F-150s with the V8 in it coming that are going to be pretty desirable. So even if when they hit in transit, they'll show up on our website. But even the ones that are in the plant right now, if you're hunting something that you don't see, just give me a shout. I'll see what I've got coming that fits the bill. We'll get together on price, and then I'll put your name on it. And when it hits the ground, I'll put it in your driveway.
662-257-1900 is the number to call, right?
Sir. Yes.
All right.
Sir.
Well, we certainly appreciate it, my guy. Thank you.
Hi, Corey. Corey Clark, friend of ours, been with us for a long time. So yeah, in the hot pepper color, yeah, kind of red, kind of that sort of Tabasco type color, if you will. If you want to put a color on a chili pepper, I just Googled that while he was talking to get a little more info on that. So that's there. Clark Ford, Highway 25 South in Amory, 662-257-1900. Yeah, you're a much more of a Kennedy guy than I am. I've kind of gotten to the point of there's so much out there, and I don't feel like we're ever going to get an answer to where I almost just ignore it now. I'm like, okay, fine, because we're I mean, as Ginger said, the thing, we're jumping the shark to a point that
I've hit the saturation point on it for sure. I'll listen, but I've listened to enough of them that I think we're incredibly well done, that it's pretty comprehensive. And at some point, you're just going to believe what you believe.
Yeah.
I mean, I am curious why all these years later, we can't just open up all the files. That is suspicious.
Yeah.
You're hiding. I mean, they're hiding something. Now, what they're hiding might not actually be related to who killed Kennedy. It might be related to state secrets that we really don't want out. It might be related to assassination attempts on the part of our country that we don't really want out. We don't want people to see how the sausage is actually made. That's probably part of it. But, I mean, they're hiding something for sure, because otherwise they would just go, here are all the files. Go through them. Here's everything. We're not redacting anything. Go for it. Because most everybody involved in this has passed away now. So, but there's some interesting. There's a lot there that I used to be probably pre-2020. I was like, I'd read Gerald Posner's book, Case Closed, which supports the Oswald acted alone theory. And Oswald was a nut, and he wasn't a happy person, and he'd gone through all this trauma, and he really wanted to be famous, and there was a lot there, but then there was a lot of weird stuff. Like when he came back from the Soviet Union, he wasn't even treated suspiciously in our country. Anybody else was treated pretty suspiciously. It was he had connections in some high places. There's just a lot there that makes you wonder.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm all for transparency and whatnot, but I'm also all for not everybody needs to know everything. That we have calmness in the country because not every single threat is known throughout the country every time. We don't need to know everything.
We don't need to know everything. But the one of the reasons these things have taken off in the last few years is that confidence has been shaken.
Yeah.
The COVID thing, all the vaccine stuff, the J6 stuff, depending on where you stand on that, the election stuff. There's just it's so many people who now subscribe to pretty recent conspiracy theories that makes you suspicious about once your faith is shook in a government entity and on one thing, you start to question everything.
It's also right for those type of things because of social media, because we actually have the ability to all give thoughts to each other in a way that never existed prior to that. You know what I mean? Like you could have your own theory, but you had no way to put them out as not the top 1.1% of the country that tells everybody else.
Sure.
So the transfer of ideas is so different in that way.
Well, and I think and I think there's a whole lot to. There were a lot of lies told in March, April, May of 2020 about COVID, and now you go back and you're like, well, they knew they were lying. Why were they lying? And so that feeds a lot of that, you know. And 4 years later, people are far more cynical and skeptical than they were 4 years ago.
Let's see. Trying to look at time a little bit, see where I'm going now. Go here. Ole Miss, Georgia tonight. What's your general take on this? I mean, you said it. Georgia has played for Mike White. They have not given up by any means for the most part. They're just not very good. But Vegas has the Bulldogs as a 2.5 point favorite tonight. If that were true and that plays out that way, that ends Ole Miss's at-large hopes.
Yeah, for sure. You have to win tonight. Georgia has not played well lately. Neither has Ole Miss. Ole Miss had a really good first half against Missouri. They had a really bad second half, frankly. They have to put a game together, and they haven't put a full game together in about 4 weeks. I don't know if they've put a full game together since the Mississippi State game in Oxford, which was January the 30th, I believe. They haven't played a full game in the month. They didn't play one in the month of February, unless I'm missing one in my head, and I don't think I am. Look, if Ole Miss plays its best game or plays its good game against Georgia the way Georgia's been playing lately, Ole Miss is going to get a win tonight. But if Ole Miss plays this sloppy defense game, if Ole Miss plays this deal where the ball sticks, and I don't know what Flanagan's situation is, there's been no media opportunity because of the early game. Tonight's the end. I mean, if they lose tonight, there is no path. There's no. It makes the Texas A&M game on Saturday utterly meaningless. It makes the tournament meaningless unless you're one of these people that's going to do Fantasyland about 4 wins in 4 days. Ole Miss is not winning 4 games in 4 days. They're not. So that's not going to happen. It's over. But a win today, if it's by 1 point or if it's by 10 points, a win today, I think it at least allows you to approach the A&M game believing that you just might be playing for something.
Yeah, sure, 100%.
Which is significant because if you beat Georgia and then you win at home against A&M, and Ole Miss will be favored at home against A&M. If you beat A&M, you're 9-9, 22-9. Your net might slip into the 60s. You're not in great shape, but I think you can convince yourself that you can do something in Nashville that can get the eyes of the committee and can maybe sneak you into Dayton in a play-in game or something like that. I think that is certainly possible.
Well, it's where, had we kept Corey for a couple more minutes, it was something I was thinking about asking him as a fan of all three sports because, you know, I'm not moving the goalposts, but as I said yesterday on the podcast, when we were going into the season, you win 20 overall and you get to this point in league play, even at 7 or whatever they end up being, 8, it's a win. I mean, that's something that you would have expected and hoped for and been okay with going in because what he's done is if they beat Georgia tonight, and you got to, again, as you just said, if you win the game, you will have kept postseason interest into this basketball program the entire regular season. And that has not happened in a while. That has been a very uncommon thing to go, hey, they're going to go to the arena. The crowd's going to be a little better on Saturday. People are going to go to the arena and go, hey, if we win, maybe this, maybe that, this is whatever. It's still circulating. And look, for year one of any coach's era at Ole Miss, based off what was going on in the recent past, the ability to keep the fan base's attention throughout the entire regular season is a huge win. That was job one, and you accomplished that, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, go back and look at it. Andy's last year was a disaster. Kermit's first year, they went to the tournament. It was a very exciting season. The next year, they were not good. I think the year after that was the COVID year where we did all the you couldn't get into the arena. Everything was closed up. You had to wear a mask, all the silliness. They were a good team. They were competitive. Fans actually got cheated out of a pretty fun team.
Yeah.
They went to Nashville playing for something, and had they beaten LSU on that Friday night, they might have gotten into the tournament. Since then, the seasons have been over late January. I mean, last year the season was over in December.
Whatever day UNA was, yeah.
I was in Boise. It was December. It was over. And so, yeah, I mean, the basketball's been far more relevant. It's been far more fun. And I think Saturday could end up being a pretty fun day for them if they beat Georgia. If they don't beat Georgia, that's going to be crickets. It's meaningless. And anybody who tries to spin Saturday as meaningful, if Ole Miss loses tonight, you can go ahead and knock them off your credibility list. I mean, they're not getting in at 8 and 10. So they've got to beat Georgia, and if they do, it makes Saturday interesting. And if you beat A&M, I think it makes Nashville at least compelling. It at least gives Chris an opportunity at the podium to make a pitch for his team. It gives the other coaches in the league an opportunity to pitch. Because, look, everyone in the league wants as many SEC teams as possible in the tournament. It's just best for the league moving forward. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. A win tonight makes basketball relevant through the end of the year, and I think that is, like you said, that is step one in terms of building something at Ole Miss. Building something where people are still talking about and thinking about basketball into the middle of March. Mm-hmm. Where it's not
go ahead.
You want, in an ideal world, right? In an ideal world, you want that first SEC baseball series to be on the undercard. Mm-hmm. That's if you're Keith Carter and the people inside that building, you want the first SEC baseball series of the season to be an afterthought. You want your fans focused on the basketball team in the tournament. That's ideal.
Ken Palm is giving Georgia a 56% chance of winning the game tonight. Ken Palm predicting 76-74 Bulldogs. And then just to finish the conversation we were having, they were giving Ole Miss a 55% chance against A&M on Saturday, 74-72, the prediction on that one. So
Saturday, Chase, would be a lot of fun if Ole Miss wins and Texas A&M beats Mississippi State, and they're playing each other on Saturday with the winner getting to 9-9.
It's kind of a stay alive game, yeah.
It would be a really you could at least talk yourself into this being a close to a play-in game. You could talk yourself into, man, this is cool. And I think you'd have a great environment. I don't know what time the baseball team plays on Saturday or what the weather is or any of that stuff, but you'd have a chance to have, and it's on national television, it's on CBS, you'd have a chance for it to be a really big event. But boy, you have a chance for it to be an absolute stinker if both or one of them lose here in the midweek. If in a scenario where Ole Miss loses at Georgia and Texas A&M loses at Mississippi State, at home against Mississippi State, it's utterly meaningless Saturday.
Crazy thing as we go to our first break. If you told Beard this, probably he wouldn't have believed it. Ole Miss, with 2 games to go in the regular season, they are 35th nationally in offensive adjusted efficiency and 141st in defensive adjusted efficiency. So completely separate of what you kind of expected. That is being buoyed by Ole Miss being 15th in the nation in 3-point shooting as of this point. So
I go back and look at what he said at the beginning of the year. He kept telling us, like after the first couple of games when Ole Miss couldn't shoot at all, he kept saying this is going to be a good shooting team. Mm-hmm. And we'd ask defense questions, and you'd get real kind of answers where he'd kind of dance around it a little bit. And sure enough, breaking. Chris Beard knows.
He knew what he meant. Yeah. He knew what he was saying.
I think he knew he had a team that could score. He knew he had a team that could shoot it at times, get hot shooting, and I think he knew he had a team that defensively had a chance to be really limited.
Yeah.
And sure enough.
That's where they are. The podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. How's your social battery right now? Drained, bursting with energy. Not enough boundaries maybe. If you're a little less social coming out of the holidays in the winter, it's easy to ignore our social battery and spread ourselves thin, especially with social gatherings picking up at this time of year. What's the right amount of socializing for you? How do you recharge? Maybe thrive around people or maybe need some alone time. Therapy can give you self-awareness to build a social life. It doesn't drain your battery. Therapy is great to get some honest opinions, not friends or family that have some preconceived notions telling you what they already think. It's a clean slate. So if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, give BetterHelp an option for you. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. Fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Switch therapists anytime, video on or off, whatever you need. So you can find your sweet spot with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/MPW today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/MPW.
Our next partner is Athletic Greens. I drink AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted better gut health, sustained energy, immune system support. I hate taking pills. I drink AG1 every morning, love knowing I'm doing something good for my body, giving my body the nutrition it craves, covering my nutritional bases for the day. Literally couldn't be easier, which is why I trust Athletic Greens. I just mix one small scoop of AG1 with water and drink it first thing each morning. I also like that it costs less than $3 a day. It's pretty good if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with the highest quality sourced ingredients. It's a win-win. If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Just go to athleticgreens.com/MPW. That's athleticgreens.com/MPW. Check it out. Are you retiring soon? How long should you wait to take Social Security? What account should you pull from first? Are you already retired? Should you consider Roth conversions? These are some of the questions that can only be answered by a personalized retirement income plan. Andrew Segal with Segal Wealth Management specializes in helping folks just like you come up with their retirement game plan. Whether you meet at his office in Collierville or prefer Zoom from anywhere, schedule a free discovery meeting and see what they can do for you. It's rebelsretire.com. Again, rebelsretire.com. Someone in the chat was asking about Comer and Southern. They were in Collierville. If you live in that area, you want to get in touch with the people at Southern Air Conditioning and Heating, 662-429-4429. If you live in Oxford, Batesville, Tupelo, that area, you need to get in touch with the people at Comer Heating and Air. That number is 662-8011-777. The same great people, same great products, same great services, just different names. So don't forget, Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating for all of your heating and cooling needs. And we're brought to you by the College Corner. College Corner, if you're heading to town for the baseball series this weekend, if you're heading to town for the Texas A&M game, maybe you're doing both, make sure you stop by the College Corner right off of Sisk Avenue at the Oxford Commons. More than 4,000 square feet of the best Rebel gear, plenty of parking available. Their staff's going to have you in and out, ready for Swayze or the Pavilion in no time. They also have 2 locations in the Jackson area, and you can check them out online at collegecornerstore.com. Call Argent Wealth's 401k advisory services team today. They'll conduct a complimentary, no-obligation benchmarking and analysis of your current 401k plan. Mention that you heard about Argent Wealth on the Oxford Exxon podcast. Get 10% off your first year's fees. It's myargentwealth.com.
Other games in the SEC coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, a good one in Gainesville, Florida. Number 16, Alabama, 20-9, 12-4. They are at the Florida Gators, who are 10-6 in the SEC. They're 20-9 overall. Florida, a 1.5-point favorite to give Bama its second loss in a row if that were to happen. 175 on a total. A big number there, but Alabama obviously fills it up.
Yeah, it's a fun game. That's a really good game. It's a chance for Florida to kind of move up a seed line. They've played well. They did not play particularly well Saturday at South Carolina. Alabama's obviously, like everybody else, has been better at home than they are on the road. Florida's better at home than they are on the road. It'll be a fun game. That's the kind of game that you might see it again in a week and a half in Nashville, and it's pretty exciting.
And then your 8 o'clock game by itself tonight, SEC Network for that one. The Auburn Tigers are at Missouri.
Yeah. I got nothing. I mean, Missouri's staring 0-18 in the face. They were in the tournament last year.
They were.
I mean, that's the reality of the new basketball era where you're completely rebuilding a roster every year is, yeah, people are like, hey, man, you can really rebuild fast. You can. And you can go to hell fast. You can be an absolute dumpster fire fast. So people are like, what do you think for next year? I've got that question a couple times. What do you think Ole Miss will look like next year? I mean, my honest answer is, I don't know. They could be really good or they could be horrible. I don't know. I mean, anything's possible. I mean, seriously, like the risk of starting the conference. Arkansas went to 2 Elite Eights and a Sweet 16. And this year they're probably going 6-10 in the league, 6-12 in the league. And they have a talented team. You just put a bunch of people together and hope it works. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Dennis Gates didn't become a bad coach this year. He didn't forget how to coach a basketball team. That didn't happen. He didn't have some magic deal last year and then become a bad coach this year. It's players. And in this system, you have no continuity. You start all over, and it's really player dependent. I mean, a coach can only do so much in terms of culture.
I give the NCAA credit in a way here because the PR they've done on this is kind of fascinating because I was reading a story this morning. Did you see this about what the NCAA tournament is probably expanding to from a team standpoint? Did you come across this?
Like 78? Is that where we're going?
Well, I think 76 was the number that was thrown out. But here's what I like, okay? We're currently at 68. Most people would like it just to stay where it is. The argument and the nut graph, the lead, the thesis of all this is not, are they going to expand, and that's what we're mad about. No, they're getting their minions to write the stories to say, hey, we're only expanding to 76. We're not talking about 80 or 96 in this. Like, it's a complete just understood thing. It's going to expand. But, hey, we're not going to 96, guys. No. We're preserving the sanctity of this thing by only going to 76. Cool? Capiche? Sweet?
Yeah.
Copacetic? Good. Cool.
And I guess they're adding 8 more play-in games. Is that what they're trying to do? Or 4 more play-in?
They don't know. What they're trying to do is figure out a way to get more teams in to try to keep the Big Ten or the Power 5 or the SEC from just breaking apart and creating their own tournament.
So in this scenario, a 9-9 Ole Miss or a 9-9 Texas A&M doesn't even have to worry about it. They're in.
You would take the first 4 out and the next 4 out and throw those bad boys in the tournament. Yes.
So, yeah, more coaches are happy. More teams are happy. Fewer fan bases are all worked up. But you're watering it down. I mean, it's fine the way that it is. I think you and I are on the same page on this. There are some people who are like, the games in Dayton don't count. I've been there. They count. They're great. It's a great environment. It's really cool. And the teams that win get to go jump on a plane and fly someplace that night and land and get ready to play again. And that's tournament. It feels like a tournament. When you go to Dayton, it feels like a tournament. But I don't know that you can add 4 more play-in games. Maybe you can. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is, hey, we're going to play 4 games on Monday, 4 games on Tuesday, 4 games on Wednesday, and then boom, start the big show on Thursday and make a week of it. And if that's what it is, then okay. But you're just watering it down more and more because you're going to end up taking more high major teams with losing conference records.
College basketball administrators fear that if the tourney is left untouched, it will inspire power conference schools to at least consider their own postseason. Fox is already creating a counter to the NIT. Quote, the NCAA has to be proactive, one source said. Modest expansion may be the only way to keep the tournament we all know and love alive. Says that it is not a compromise, but a practical solution. Goes on to say a 96-team field would make it virtually impossible to avoid reconstructing the entire postseason calendar, blah, blah, blah. And then this is interesting. There's also financial implications to consider from the nitty-gritty of adding more charter flights for teams and paying more per diem to the broader scale of offsetting the additional costs with added revenue streams. But even adding 4 or 8 more teams is not as simple as drawing in a few more lines. Just where those teams will be inserted needs to be considered. Does the first 4 become the first 8? And if so, what seeds fall into that category? It's a real sticking point of who gets the extra bids. But the point in all this is, are TV people willing to pay the same rate moving forward for this? Because if not, you're just more expense without more dollars. So a lot of this has to be kind of floating it to the TV people going, all right, we're going to give you 4 more games. You're going to pay that prorated? Not? What's the deal? And that's something they don't really know yet.
You know where I'm going with this. You and I have this conversation all the time. There's this tendency in society to believe that because something is a certain way, that it will always stay that way. There's nothing to support that theory. Things change. And just because I love the tournament that we all know and love, it hasn't always been 64 teams. It hasn't always been 68 teams. It used to be a much smaller tournament. Did we all know it and love it to the point then that we were anti-change? It changes. Look, You can't. We talk about justifying things financially. You're sitting in the room in the SEC meetings, and they've got all the ADs and the CFOs or whatever together, and they're having a conversation. If somebody wants to get really damn practical about this, they're going to say, look, we've taken the amateurism out of this. The magic is gone. It's pro sports. We acknowledge it's pro sports. We're paying like pro sports. Let's have a tournament like pro sports. We don't need St. Bonaventure anymore. We don't need Marist. Let's just put the big leagues together, have a big tournament, and instead of sharing the money 300 and something ways, share it 40 something ways or 60 ways, whatever that is. Cut it. Do you really need the Sun Belt champion in the tournament? Do you really need the Maryland, what's it called? Maryland, something Eastern Shore. Do you really need them in the tournament? I mean, seriously. Would you just be better off putting Texas A&M and Ole Miss both in the tournament, put them at the lower seeds, let them have a shot at Purdue in the first round? If they get beat, they get beat. Who gives a shit? You spread the money. Instead of spreading the money 300 and something ways, you spread it 60 ways. It's a lot more money for everybody.
I completely get what you're saying, and I don't even disagree, but for the sake of the podcast, I'll pull up the devil's advocate, is that basketball is so different than football, is that when you do that, unlike the Big Ten and the SEC, grabbing in some other teams, like I saw Andy Staples said, hey, here's what a 48-team conference would look like, and we're cool, and we're all happy with this. When you do this in basketball, you're just completely eliminating power teams that could win this thing. I mean, you're taking UConn, you're taking Gonzaga, you're taking all these teams and just going, peace, bye.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it
don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is what it's not what
I just think at some point you really are killing a sport for no real reason because the money's not that much more when you do the other way. Not really. Devil's
advocate, is the sport really all that alive anyway? This is the only time. This is the only time of year that anybody talks about it, and nobody's even talking about it yet. It's still not in the national news. You turn on I did it yesterday because I was curious. You turn on the TV yesterday. The lead story is where all the quarterbacks are going to go in the NFL. The NFL doesn't play till September, Chase. They don't play a game for 6 months. 6 months. But NFL free agency begins in like 8 days. And it's all about NFL free agency. Where is Kirk Cousins going to go? What's going to happen to Justin Fields? Is Baker Mayfield going to stay in Tampa? They don't play for half a year. And then the next story is like, and it's legit, like LeBron James went past 40,000 points. It's, hey, should we reopen the GOAT conversation? That's fine, whatever. But no one's talking college basketball, really. No one's going, hey, who are the teams to beat in college basketball? So I guess the argument is there's only so much oxygen in the room. The sport's never been more niche than it is today. We talk about college baseball being a niche sport. I don't know that college basketball, other than its tournament in a week when we start having tournaments and we do the buzzer beaters and Cinderella and all that stuff, but that's the only time that it's really all that relevant. So from a financial standpoint, I don't know.
I guess I'm thinking through this, and this might be something I come back to tomorrow. I'm not sure I don't disagree with Jeff, though. I think when you completely take all the Cinderellas out, I don't think you've got a tournament that millions are watching the same way. I don't. Because I don't think it's fascinating. Why do you give a crap if A&M or Ole Miss wins? It's two teams with millions and millions of dollars in an athletic budget, and they advance to the next round playing average basketball. You know what I mean? Like, I don't...
Let's be real. Let's be real. The people that watch the Thursday, Friday, the only reason they watch it is because suddenly at their office pool, they got a bracket.
But a bracket is more interesting when you're trying to figure out whether Belmont can beat Kentucky versus whether Purdue beats Iowa State.
I don't know. I don't
come
know
on.
I don't know that
for the average person who doesn't watch sports to the level that you and I do, or at least keep up with it for a podcast.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean the 4-13 game where you've got, or the 3-14 game where it's 3rd seed Michigan State versus 14 seed Belmont.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and someone does some digging into Belmont. Can Belmont pull this off? Sure, but I don't. Would it really be that different if it was 3rd seed Michigan State versus 14 seed Ole Miss?
I don't know. maybe it's just me. I just think there's something to college basketball when we're caring about Gonzaga and Marquette and UConn and teams that are not necessarily the football powers as they are.
By the way, Ginger makes a great point here.
Yeah, it was.
It's a great point. It's something I've talked about in my house before, and people just look at me and roll their eyes. Why do we talk about Cinderella like she's the underdog? Cinderella was scorching hot. I mean, it was going to work out. She came from poverty, blah, blah, blah. But come on. Cinderella turned heads. She was always going to land some rich guy. Always. There was a 0% chance that Cinderella was going to end up back in the slums. It wasn't going to happen. So why do we do that? Why do we make 15 seed Cinderella? Shouldn't Cinderella be like a 2 seed?
Is it more of a midnight reference that you're trying to get in before the clock hits midnight?
Yeah, but even at midnight, it wasn't like Cinderella became ugly. It just meant that she lost some of her like fancy clothes.
Well, I mean, the prince might be a very conceited human that only cared about the finer things in life and had no interest in the...
Did you not watch Pretty Woman? I mean, all you got, he could send Cinderella to Rodeo Drive and take care of that in no time.
Big mistake. Huge. Yeah, I mean... Well, it's like, she's all that with Freddie Prinze. Oh, wow, they took her glasses off, and suddenly she's a 10. No, she was a 10 anyway. She just had glasses on. Thanks.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. The shock and awe of all the people when the glasses come off and there's the slightest makeover. It's the same human. Good grief. This is so stupid. I don't know. Whatever.
She became poor again at midnight.
Yeah.
But she didn't get ugly.
She just needed an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, she got dressed up. They put the glass slippers on, all that stuff. But, I mean, you telling me Cinderella wasn't going to be hot in a pair of leggings and tennis shoes? It was going to work out. That's my point. If it didn't work out that night, it was going to work out eventually here pretty quick.
Well, she wouldn't have an opportunity otherwise, though.
This was going to be the last ball ever?
That she could get into? Yeah, she only got in because of her situation, right?
Yeah, but my point is, I mean, you're telling me she couldn't have like gotten in line for one of the reality shows and gotten on? There was always going to be a path for Cinderella.
I kind of agree. That was offensive to people with glasses. Just assuming that because they had that whatever her name was and she's all that had the glasses on, it immediately made her less attractive.
Yeah.
It's very anti-glasses.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very offensive to the spectacled part of society.
Spectacle. Good. It's clever. Got a couple things after the break. Did you see Russell Wilson? That's an $85 million cap hit to the Broncos this season. $85 million.
It tells you that Sean Payton
just said nope.
Just said it won't work. It can't work. We have to eat the hit.
He won 11 games for a total of $124 million guaranteed. Denver paid 3 times more per win than San Francisco is paying for Brock Purdy's entire 4-year contract.
Yeah. Look, in that league, if you pay premium price for a quarterback and you don't get the production, you're doomed.
But if you don't have a quarterback, you're doomed. So people continue to pay it.
So they pay it. I mean, it's. I was having a conversation with someone this morning, text, about what does it say that it's a Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. I like Kirk Cousins. I mean, he came across as a very likable guy in that documentary. But I've never watched Kirk Cousins and go, that guy's a Super Bowl quarterback. That guy's going to take my team to the promised land. Good. He's solid.
Again, no, he is the captain of my purgatory category.
Yeah. I'm a good player.
Good enough to convince you, but not good enough to actually do it.
Yeah. I mean, but he's going to get mad money even coming off an Achilles. Everyone wants Kirk Cousins. That should tell you everything about the state of the NFL. It's so difficult to find that franchise quarterback. And you just keep trying, and you convince yourself that everyone is the next one.
Atlanta and New England are the main contenders for Russell Wilson, it appears, at this point.
Austin, thank you for the super chat. There's your answer. Atlanta or New England. Atlanta's also in on Justin Fields. I mean, people are trying to convince themselves that, hey, it didn't work in Chicago, but it would work in X for Justin Fields.
And it looks like Denver's going with Jared Stidham right now.
Whew.
Denver gave up 5 picks, 2 first-rounders, and 3 players for Wilson, and then gave him 5 years, $242 million. Mike Jones ranks it the worst trade for a quarterback in NFL history.
It'd be hard to think of anything worse than that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, Jason Kelce made it official and retired yesterday from the
Did you watch that?
Eagles. I did not watch it live, but I think I have seen almost all of it in clips over the course of the last few hours.
I went back and watched the whole thing last night. It was 45 minutes. That was the most genuine retirement speech in the history of retirement speeches. I'm not saying someone hasn't done one as genuine, but no one's been more genuine. He was emotional from the very, and his opening to the speech was incredible because you were like, what's he talking about? He was talking about his first middle school practice. Remembered the teammate that he went up again in one of those like Oklahoma drill sort of things, which if you remember back to being a junior high school kid, those were terrifying because you have no idea what you're doing. You just know you're about to have this big collision. He talked about, he was amazing. Everything involved in that speech about how much he loved Philadelphia, how he fit Philadelphia, how the strength coach, he was a walk-on at Cincinnati. The strength coach, D'Antonio was there when he first got there. D'Antonio left for Michigan State. They hired Brian Kelly, who brought in his own strength coach. And that strength coach one day told Kelce, you'd make a hell of a center. He'd never played offensive line before. Mm-hmm. Ends up moving to offensive line, and the rest. He's arguably one of the best centers in the history of the game. It was a phenomenal speech. If you haven't seen it, it's worth finding it. He was great. He was so raw and emotional, and like a couple of times you're like, man, bless his heart. He's having a hard time here, but he was really genuine about what all those people meant to him. Talked about his dad, his brother, all of those things. It was a really compelling 45 minutes.
It's a phenomenal story, and it's a phenomenal media story when you look at everything that's happened because, their podcast has taken off new heights to a level. I'm sure it's a top 2 or 3 sports podcast at this point, depending on how you want to dictate that. And they're both incredibly engaging. They're engaging because they legitimately care for each other in a way that it comes across so original and so genuine and so good that it sort of captivates people. And you've got all this Taylor Swift dynamic over here, and it's created where everyone now has to have an opinion on all the Kelce brothers in a situation where they're just kind of the real deal. And Jason makes Travis a little more likable, frankly. He's not a bad guy. You know what I mean? Just the whole Chiefs thing and whatever.
Well, he does that thing where Travis, they're on the screen and one of Jason's kids will show up. And Travis just goes from being this big football player to being this puppy dog just instantly. He loves those little girls. And the little girls don't see him as a football player. And they don't see him as Taylor Swift's boyfriend. They see him as Uncle Travie. And it's great. I mean, it's very compelling video. I started to say TV, but it's not on TV. But I watched the podcast, and I kind of got in on it at the ground floor because it was such a good concept. And normally, when players do shows by themselves without someone to kind of help steer it, it's a disaster. And those guys, it's great. It really is really good.
I'm not sure. Everybody talks about Travis's or whatever, but I'm not sure that all of this podcast, Taylor Swift and everything, I'm not sure if Jason Kelce is the person who has benefited the most.
He has.
Because you get to see the real him, the brother, the lineman that actually becomes somebody we talk about and recognize and whatnot. He's going to have a hell of a TV career soon. 3 different networks already vying for his time and attention.
Oh yeah, his and his wife's great, and she has no interest in the spotlight. But he'll every once in a while. But I mean, when he talked about her yesterday, it was pretty emotional. He went from being just inside football circles. People knew Jason Kelce was a great center, but we don't talk about centers. We don't watch centers. You don't watch centers. I mean, I do the first 5 plays of every game, watch the offensive line and defensive line, and then I'm back to being just your typical person where I'm watching the ball. Wherever the ball goes, that's where my eyes are going. I'm watching the ball. And he goes from being just this guy that inside football everyone knew was a great player to one of the most recognizable players in the game because of his ability to – it's really a lesson here. I mean, if you're listening in media relations out there, you should probably pay attention to this. He let people get to know him as a person, and it made him a far more popular player. It wasn't because people started studying offensive line play. It was like, oh, he's really elite at pass blocking. No, that wasn't it. People liked him as a human.
He's probably a Hall of Famer. And I mean, Tupelo Rep has a good point here. I'm not trying to think through it. He might be the most recognizable offensive lineman of all time. That might be accurate.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I mean, in today's world with everything involved and all of it, I'm going to think about it for a minute, but I think
was Bastelli, was that the offensive tackle that played for a long time?
Yeah.
I guess I'm proving the point here. I can't even remember his name.
Anthony Munoz is not as known as Jason Kelce.
Munoz, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. Let me think about it. Northeast Spark, NESPRC, service people across 2 communities. Rural communities. Sorry, not 2 communities. Rural communities. 2 packages. Ignite, 100 Mbps for the Blaze. That is their 1 gig option. Your hometown team bringing you world-class broadband. That's NESpark.com. 662-238-3159. Phone service, parental controls, network security, and much more. So to get the best internet in Lafayette County, that's 662-238-3159.
We're also brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you're thinking about traveling, wanting a special trip to create a lifetime of unique memories, get in touch with John. It came up in our house yesterday. Someone was talking about a beach trip this summer. I don't know if you've looked at beach trips and how expensive the beach suddenly has gotten. So we were talking about different alternatives. If you're doing that, get in touch with John. He's probably going to have ideas that you're not going to come up with on your own. And if you have a specific plan that you want to do, give him some parameters, give him a budget. He's going to help you make it even more special. You don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387, or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. Oxford's newest Greek restaurant on the square, Opa, is the perfect place to plan your company dinner, a festive party event. Fabulous food, great craft libations. Opa can accommodate up to 200 guests. For catering or booking information, contact Jeannie at 601-421-7147. Get the beautiful and healthy smile you deserve at Corinth Dental. Dr. Bubba McQueen, Dr. Jenny Beth Hendrick are devoted to restoring and enhancing the natural beauty of your smile using conservative, state-of-the-art procedures that will result in a beautiful, long-lasting smile. From routine checkups to advanced treatment, including implants and Invisalign, Corinth Dental is here to help you achieve your smile goals. Schedule your appointment today. Take the first step toward a better version of yourself. It's corinthdental.com. Are you a displaced corporate executive wanting to put your career in your own hands? Are you an experienced entrepreneur looking to diversify? Either way, Andy Ludicky can help. He owns multiple franchises and businesses. He uses his expertise to help others find their American dream through a very thorough and free consultation process. So call Andy. Put your life and your career in your own hands. It's 100% free. You've got nothing to lose. MyPerfectFranchise.net. Andy at MyPerfectFranchise.net, or give him a call, 404-973-9901.
Podcast is brought to you by Prime Shrimp. Tons of different options for you, including their soy ginger, their newest option. Again, you can check out a lot of different samples, get a feel of everything, or a lot of your favorites. You buy 5 pouches or more, use code RG, and you can get 25% off with PrimeShrimp.com. They deliver straight to your home. Fewer than 10 minutes, freezer to plate. Great for lunches, quick dinners, protein snacks, and more. So no matter what flavor, get 5 or more, code RG with primeshrimp.com. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing these names here. Gene Upshaw, Nate Newton, Orlando Pace, obviously a big deal. Jeff Saturday for a lot of reasons. I'll give you 2, though. Because we're talking about just simply known throughout the world, pop culture, whatever you want to talk about. We're not talking about anything football circles, because you got to have a lot more than football circles for the conversation we're having. John Madden, number 1.
Yep.
That would definitely count. I mean, between video games and his commentating and everything, I mean, that's a lot of people. And then, frankly, to localize it, just strictly what I'm talking about, Michael Orr. It's the subject of a film that won Best Picture.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about Orr.
I mean, if we're talking strictly known,
yeah,
that's top 10 for sure.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, those are the 2 that came to my head as we were having the commercial break. Were John Madden and Michael Orr.
I'm proud of us. Growth right here. Michael Orr's name came up, and neither one of us ripped that movie to shreds just instantly. It's growth. We you guys never grow up, and I'm like, well, we just did right there.
I talk crap about She's All That, but we gave Blindside not 1 second when it popped up.
Gave it a pat. Done. Our opinions expressed. It's right. We moved on.
Yeah, that is
good for us.
Fair.
Good for us.
I admitted on the message board a few days ago that I spent more time on this than I should have. The media day schedule came out for coaches, and I think you made fun of it. Everybody makes fun of it because we all knew they were going to speak, and for some reason we make this out like it is some huge deal when it's coming in the middle of July. I did see the Big Ten has increased their number of days to 3 for media day, so there's still 1 fewer day than the SEC, but they have gone from 2 to 3 now. What is sort of fascinating, though, is they spread the coaches out in a way that there's not like one day that you're just dying about. Like, it's kind of some good, some bad, whatever. It's not all, which is their goal because they're trying to keep you there all week. But somebody posed the question, if you had to go with all 4, what group would you most want to have dinner with in the least? And they put this in a thing where there was no obvious, that's the 4 I would want to sit around for cocktails and a steak with. Like, there was a good part and a problem in every single group.
All right, let's take the days. Give me Monday.
Monday starts us off with Brian Kelly, Lane Kiffin, Shane Beamer, and Clark Lee. Lane would tell you himself he is not a good dinner guest.
Yes,
he doesn't want to hang out with you.
We're talking about sitting at dinner.
Yes.
Lane's not going to talk to you. Lane's going
Brian
to be
Kelly's weird as hell.
Yeah. Beamer, I can't decide what I think. And Clark's a really nice guy, but it's the Vanderbilt coach. You're almost like feeling sorry for him at that point. Clark, you have no chance.
I think that's the worst table.
It's a pretty bad table.
Tuesday, this is one of 2 contenders for me.
Okay.
I think. Well, actually, the other 3 I can make arguments. So Tuesday.
All right. Okay.
Kirby Smart, Eli Drinkwitz, Brett Venables, Josh Heupel.
All right, that's pretty good.
That's a good table. That's not bad, is it?
I've been told by multiple people to the point that I believe them that Kirby Smart in an environment like that is
really funny. Yeah.
Really funny. Drinkwitz,
I think Heupel's my only negative here. He just gets on my nerves.
Yeah. Drinkwitz and Venables will be fine, I'm guessing. And who knows what Heupel's really like? He looks like he might throw a few back.
Well, I feel certain about that.
So that one has potential.
Drinkwitz has definitely got 3 or 4 conspiracy theories up in that noggin of his that you can get out of him that night.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
You know he's really thought hard about something and gone down some Reddit rabbit holes. Come on. Drinkwitz is going down some Reddit rabbit holes.
If I said, hey, Eli, what do you think about the Kennedy assassination? Did Oswald act alone? We might have an hour of like really interesting conversation right there.
He might be that guy from the GIF. It's like got the charts all behind him, waving his arms around. I think there's a decent chance that he can go crazy on whatever his conspiracy of choice is. Wednesday, we've got Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, Billy Napier at Florida, Jeff Lebby, and Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, who we got Thursday?
You done with that one? already?
Yeah,
You
I,
good?
I just, I mean, I don't know where are we going with. I mean, so you got DeBoer, who has the hardest job in all of sports.
Dude can't even take a selfie at the basketball game the other day without Nick literally over his shoulder. It was Jalen Milroe and Justin Thomas and DeBoer and Saban and Trey Mullinax, who's another golfer for anybody who's not aware. And Saban just smiling right over DeBoer's shoulder. Here we are.
Saban can't lose, and he won't go away. So you're there, and unless you go undefeated, when you lose, someone's going to go, Saban wouldn't have lost that game. And there's nothing you can prove that Saban would have lost it. And so it's hopeless, really, at least for a while. Napier, guy feels like this is going to be your final appearance. So for him, it's kind of like, hey, this is your last meal here at SEC Media Days. Who were the other two?
Levy and Sarkisian.
Sarkisian might be interesting. I don't know about Jeff at this point. I've never met Jeff. Covered him. Never met him other than, well, one time at the 1810 thing where they had to get together.
I mean, he would be fun at dinner, no issue there. But I can't pick that group for just reasons. And then I think this is actually a sneaky good table if we're just talking about cocktails and getting dinner and talking. Pittman, okay. Freeze, Stoops, and Elko. I mean, if we're just having dinner.
Yeah. So Pittman would probably be fun. I'm told Elko would be fun. I mean, we'd all have to use styrofoam cups.
We would.
You know, because in case there's a picture taken, we'd want plausible deniability. But a little vodka, some cranberries, some 7-Up.
All good.
All good. And who's the fourth?
Stoops.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, he'd be fun. There's my table.
You're going with that over the number 2 even. Okay.
Yeah, there's my table because we can talk bourbon with Stoops. Stoops is interesting. Horse racing, bourbon. Seems pretty comfortable in his own skin. It's probably Pittman's final appearance. He's good with it. Whatever. He made a bunch of money. He seems like a good – everybody says he's a good guy. You're going to get Hugh desperately trying to be the star of the show, which is going to be comical. And then that's plenty.
But Freeze is at a table that's not overwhelming. Like there's no obvious alpha sitting there to kind of shut him up. You know what I mean? He's not sitting there with Kirby or Nick.
Right, where he's going to be intimidated. He might open up a little bit in this scenario because he's beaten most of these guys.
Who are your 4 if you can just take the whole league and put a table together?
Ooh, probably Kirby, Stoops.
Am I crazy for leaning Drinkwitz here?
No, I was thinking Drinkwitz. That was the name on my Drinkwitz and maybe Sarkisian.
Sarkisian or Levy is actually kind of where I'm going here.
I mean, Sark's had a pretty interesting life.
Yeah. I think that's where we're
I know people in the media are going to do the Lane thing, and I just think at the dinner table, Lane's going to get super quiet. I just don't think that's too many people. The conversations, if the conversation goes small talk, he's probably not particularly comfortable with it.
He doesn't want to be there. He's not getting paid to be there.
Yeah. I mean, he's not trolling everybody at the table, I don't think.
No, he would like to go home, play on Twitter, and pet Juice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just better things for him to do where he's far more comfortable.
Yeah. I think I'm with you there. I think that's where that's sitting. Just quickly, nothing much on this, but baseball, Memphis tonight. Raleigh Maddox getting the start for the Rebels. And then this weekend, Mike Bianco announced yesterday to Sports Talk Mississippi that he's going to shift to Gunnar Dennis. Gunnar Dennis was already on Friday. Gunnar Dennis on Friday. Liam Doyle, the transfer from Coastal Carolina, getting his first start as a Rebel on Saturday. And then Grayson Saunier coming off his 5 scoreless innings on Sunday against Iowa. He will start on this Sunday as well. So Dennis, Doyle, Saunier in that order. JT Quinn out of the rotation for now. Just simply hasn't been good enough. He's been dealing with blisters, a lot of things there. And, we talk about this and non-conference games not mattering, but I'm looking at the record a little bit, and I think it's very fair to say that we are starting the situation with Ole Miss on, hey, you need to make sure you get to 14 to get back into the postseason at this point. That's where we're kind of setting the bar for them, and if we need to elevate it, then we'll elevate it. But right now, it's 14 and 16 in my head. And because of that, it means you got to be a few games over 500 overall here too. I think these non-conference games are starting to matter a little bit just because you've lost 5 of them already. And you start looking around a little bit, and you've got Southern twice, and you've got State in the non-league, and you've got some tough games coming up in some weird ways. This is not the most least important week here when you've got Memphis tonight, a pretty average Memphis team, and then Morehead State. You need to get at least 3 or 4 of these and at least put it to bed that you're worried about the non-league record at this thing. You don't want to get into a situation like Georgia got into a few years ago where they ended up 14 and 16 in the league, but they were like 500 overall because they just piddled around in the non-league the whole year.
Oh, they need to go 4-0 this week.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a good week last week. They lost the 1 game to Iowa, but that's not going to hurt you. But they don't need to lose to Morehead State. They don't need to lose to Memphis. And you're right. They're going to lose some non-league games in the season because some of those end up becoming schedule losses. It just happens.
You score 12 runs or you lose because you're not going to waste pitching on that game.
Yeah, you're going to throw the game away. You're just going to say, hey, we've got a game on Thursday or Friday that just means too much, and we can't do this tonight. And so that's a schedule loss. So you have a couple of those on the schedule. Yeah, you don't want to stack a whole bunch of non-SEC losses before you go into the league. But I think you're right, based on just what the league looks like. And I haven't watched any games yet, but just in terms of records and things like that, 14 and 16 is getting you in the tournament.
Yeah, I think that's probably correct. So, podcast brought to you in part by G&M Pharmacy, 662-236-2222. Also with Tyson Drugs in Holly Springs, 662-252-2321. They deliver locally in the Oxford area, and they offer MedSync. Free prescriptions the same day each month and take care of you. 1 trip to the pharmacy, 1 delivery. You have everything you need when you need it with G&M. So again, get the best pharmacy, community pharmacy that will care about you in Lafayette. That is G&M, 662-236-2222.
We're brought to you by Service Specialist Staffing and Recruiting Agency. They've been connecting great job opportunities to candidates since 1967. We talked about yesterday, if you're looking for a job, what about if your company is looking to hire quality, hard-to-find talent? Service Specialists can help. Keep in mind that payment of service is solely contingent on if you decide to hire a candidate that they send. You've got nothing to lose, so give Will, Sydney, or Kelce a call at 601-573-9242 or check out their new and improved website, servicespecialistltd.com. Southern Traditions Farm is a 68-acre, 32-stall upscale equestrian training and boarding facility in Canton, Mississippi. 2 sand rings, a grass ring, miles of wooded trails, a whole lot offered at Southern Traditions, including horseback riding offerings from beginner lessons to advanced to competing at nationally recognized competitions. It's also a great venue for corporate outings, things of that nature. So get in touch with them on Facebook or Instagram at Southern Traditions Farm. I'll have a mailbag up tomorrow. It's brought to you by Art Hayes of Sotheby's International Realty. If you're thinking about making a move, put the power of Sotheby's International Realty to work for you. As a licensed agent with Sotheby's and a supporter of all things Ole Miss, Art Hayes can help you buy or sell in your hometown or anywhere in the world at no charge to you. Seriously. So call and ask Art how. 612-805-5929 or email him at Arthur, ARTHUR.Hayes, HAYS, at lakesmn.com.
Memphis is, somebody said, are they undefeated? No, they are not. They are 6-5 on the season to this
They're
point.
close.
Sorry, 7-6. 7-6. They lost a series to Jacksonville State on the road at Jacksonville State. They lost to Little Rock 10-4 in the non-league at Little Rock. They beat Central Arkansas. They took 2 out of 3 from Bowling Green. They split a midweek series against UT Martin, and they took 2 out of 3 from Wright State, losing 17-7 in the finale. Go, just beat Memphis tonight, win the game. You don't need to lose tonight. By the way, the return trip has been happening last year and this year. And if I was Mike, I would cancel it. I wouldn't do it. But they play it on campus at Memphis, not at AutoZone. I wouldn't play that there.
Mm-mm.
But
I wouldn't.
Braves fans can have a sigh of relief. It looks like Ronald Acuna avoided serious injury, and he will be ready for opening day. He tweaked his knee during a rundown between second and third base during an exhibition game against the Twins on Thursday. No immediate issues, remained in the game, but then started having some issues the next day. Braves,
They were worried he had meniscus issue, right?
Yeah, it is just a. I saw the exact term here. It was the meniscus, but nothing is torn. It's just some irritation, is the way they put
Must
it.
be not.
I bet he would heal faster than you too.
God, I would hope so for his sake.
So, little sigh of relief. A lot of people freaking out there when he left the game, because then he also like tweeted something like "I'll be back," and they're like, "Yeah, but when? Like, what does that mean at this point?" We'll look a little at the draft tomorrow. Who helped themselves from the combine, who didn't. I really have not studied that yet. I see Drake May is getting a lot of buzz and pub all over the internet today, but we'll take a shot at that. ESPN still has Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2 in their mock draft this morning, with Jaden Daniels, going number 3 to the Patriots. So
Quarterbacks.
Yes,
If they're there, you take them. They don't, and at least one of those 3 is going to be a bust.
And that will dictate your entire career, reputation, everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you'd almost rather be third, that way, if you draft the bust, you're like, well, the other 2 guys went ahead of us. If you're second and you take May and he bust and Daniels turns into a star, that's the narrative around your franchise forever.
Yeah. Mitch Trubisky says hello.
Boy. Can you imagine waking up every morning with that? You took Mitch Trubisky when Patrick Mahomes was available. That's like taking Sam Bowie when you could have had Michael Jordan. And we've talked about this before. The Portland took Clyde Drexler instead of Jordan.
Okay.
But Drexler turned out pretty good. He wasn't Jordan, but he was solid. But Sam Bowie?
Look, I get that they got Joe Burrow later, okay? But the Cincinnati Bengals took John Ross 1 pick before Mahomes, because he ran a really fast 40.
Yeah. The underwear Olympics, man. NFL falls for it every year. They scout these guys on football fields for 2 years. Come to your campus and all that stuff, and then they put them in their underwear in Indianapolis, and someone falls in love with somebody because he runs super fast. Has a great shuttle.
Mahomes went 10th overall. Players picked ahead of him: Myles Garrett, okay, Mitch Trubisky, Solomon Thomas, Leonard Fournette, Corey Davis, Jamal Adams, Mike Williams, Christian McCaffrey, and John Ross. That's the list. Saints wanted Mahomes. If the Chiefs didn't take him, they ended up with Marshawn Lattimore 1 pick later.
Yeah. The Saints were taking Mahomes at 11.
Yeah.
And they would have shipped Drew Brees off somewhere fairly quickly, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I would. My fandom would be at a higher rate right now. I have a hunch. Should that have been the draft process there? Give me Sean and Mahomes, and we'll figure it out.
There's some Chief fans they're thinking in that alternate universe, it's a totally different world, man.
The interesting thing is the Saints went Lattimore and didn't grab Deshaun Watson, who went a pick later to the Texans.
I forgot that he fell that far.
Yeah.
It might have been somebody knew something.
Mm-hmm. Evan Ingram ended up 23rd in that draft of the Giants, just while I'm scrolling down. So,
yeah, I'll never be surprised that Evan had a successful NFL career. No surprise there. Anybody that was around him at Ole Miss knew that he had every intangible.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, we'll recap Ole Miss and Georgia tomorrow from Stegeman Coliseum. Is that correct?
Stegeman.
at the
Yep.
Stegman Coliseum there in Athens. Again, baseball has Memphis tonight, 6:30. Coverage of that at rebelgrove.com. I wrote about the catchers this morning. You read that as Ole Miss is still shuffling Smithwick and Birch and trying to figure that out a little bit. So anyway, appreciate everybody. Thanks to Corey for his time this morning. As always, Clark Ford for all your car buying needs or questions. Give him a chance, and he will help you out. 662-257-1900. And we'll be back with you again tomorrow. Take care.